Welcome to the Senior Moment podcast, where we dive into topics that deal with seniors and senior living. If you are a senior, work with a senior, or have a senior in your life, this is the podcast for you. You never know what topics will be discussed in each and every episode. Hosted by Cindy Cannon and Brady Tabbs. This is the Senior Moment podcast. Welcome. We are so excited today. We have a very special guest with us today, Angela Skurtu. She is from the St. Louis Marriage Therapy. She's a nationally recognized sex therapist. She is helping couples navigate issues around intimacy and desire. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Welcome, Angela. Why don't you start off and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Angela Skurtu, and I open bedroom doors. And I do erotic adventure retreats. And so that is one of the fun things I offer this year, where I'm bringing couples together for some adult sex education. Don't worry, clothes on, judgments off. And I also offer an event that's a one-time event where I can either come to people's groups or I also host them myself, but it's called Dinner with a Sex Therapist. And again, it's adult sex education in a really fun and relaxed environment. It can be kind of a VIP experience if you have me come to your group. And basically my whole focus is teaching adults how to have hot, passionate sex. You said I could cuss, so I'm
Yes.
helping couples take their sex life from fuck no to fuck yes sex.
Yes. Okay. Awesome.
If that's what you're interested in.
I am thinking girls' night. We need to have her come to girls' night.
Ooh,
I know.
I love girls'
Okay,
nights.
all right.
I love it.
So, we haven't been doing our podcast very long, but with February being the love month, we were having a discussion. We always have a little morning stand up. We were having a little discussion about topics for February. And I was like, what do you guys think about trying to get a sex therapist to come in? Now, that is when Brady about fell over at the desk. And I said, we all know, especially the staff here, that seniors are having sex.
Absolutely.
Whether people want to admit it or not, they're having sex. And we all know that. We're in their rooms. We see what's going on. We know they're having sex, but people are not comfortable talking about it.
Absolutely. Actually, so I just want to give you guys a little insider thing. So my YouTube channel, 90% of my subscribers are males, 65 plus.
Really?
Yes. And so not only are they having sex, but they want to learn about sex. They want to know what's going on. But sex, I mean, as you said earlier, it's a private affair. People, they're in there. So, of course, my tagline is I open bedroom doors, but I am teaching people how to, in their private bedrooms, enjoy sex that's more exciting, more racy, more wild. But where do you learn that stuff? It's not like we all had adult sex education or even when you were in school. Most of us did not have any form of education. So pretty much everybody's learning through trial by fire. And
most people don't talk about it.
And nobody talks about it. It's you think girls and friends are talking, but no, they're not. They're terrified.
Okay.
So I'm really just trying to open the door that sex is meant to be a casual and comfortable conversation. It doesn't have to be this big bomb in the room. You're like, oh my God, there's sex. What do we do? It's just a normal part of everyday life. I mean, you're here because somebody had sex.
Bingo. That is exactly right.
That's how much a part of life it is. And I think people are so terrified of it, which is it's the craziest thing to me. It's literally an everyday affair. And yet people treat it like it's a bomb in the room.
Yeah. And why do you think that is?
Well, so it's not sex that is complicated, but it is our relationship with sex that's complicated. I think our culture, I think religion does it. I think society on the whole treats sex like it's this taboo, naughty, dark thing. But then that makes it unsafe for people to just say, hey, I'm interested in this. How do I learn about this? What is there out there to try? And so that's what I'm really opening bedroom doors for, is to show you there's ways to be sexual, to change your sex life. They're not actually as complicated as you think, but they do require you to make it a priority, stop making your whole life about work and kids and focus, take some time, which is why, since we're in, a senior living center, once work and kids aren't a part of the day-to-day life, well, what do you have? A lot of free time, some boredom, and a chance to I guess, fuck around.
Exactly.
And it's really nobody's
Yes.
business. It's
It's
nobody's
nobody's
business, and it
business.
shouldn't be judged, but I think it does get judged.
It gets judged all
Especially
the
when you brought up
time.
church and stuff like that.
I was just in this business seminar before I was here. And of course, I always put my I open bedroom doors. And of course, then people make these big assumptions like, oh, what does she do? What would she do in her retreat? I tell you guys, I'm probably more PG than you even know. But I'm just teaching people to slow down and connect. But of course, those judgments of what is this? What would a a sex therapist? What could she be doing? Just teaching you to connect because you don't know how. That's really what I do.
Right. Wonderful. That
And
is
it's
great.
super fun.
Absolutely. I can tell. I was going to say before going live with this, we were having all kinds of fun, just joking around, right?
Well, couples have communication issues anyway, but
Oh, yeah.
but that definitely extends to sex too. I mean, if they're having communication issues, they're going to have it that direction too, I guess.
Well,
Absolutely.
I'm glad you brought up communication. So we have a gentleman in our building that every one of us knows in the building that he is a very sexually active gentleman. So interestingly, when you said when he first moved in, I think he kind of was playing the field.
Oh,
And
yeah.
he had, 3, 4, 5 ladies that he was kind of bouncing. Now he has,
That is common, by the way,
yes.
because men live shorter than women. So if you are an active male over 65 in a senior living center, you're going to become, you're going to have some game.
Yeah, right. So he
Some
has, right?
options.
Right.
Start playing the field, man.
So he has kind of settled on one specific lady. But I went to him and said, as a sexually active senior, what question would you have for a sex therapist? And he really wanted to know when you'd be here so he could be here in the conversation. I was like, oh, no, we're going to have this conversation. But then he came back to me and he said, I've thought about it a lot. And so he had he's like, really, it's not a question. It's more a comment. So I wrote it down. So he said, when you get to be in older, 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s, and he is in his 90s, he says, sometimes you avoid intimacy because of performance issues. And he said, if you will just open your mind and communicate with your partner, a lot of times they have some of the same fears. And he said the expectation is it kind of is understood that it may happen and it may not.
Yes.
And he said it just works a whole lot better when there's this open communication. And I told him, I said, I appreciate that. I'm going to definitely bring that up. So even when you bring up communication, I think it's a huge being able to comfortably communicate.
I have so much to say about it.
Okay, go.
So I have a whole video series on my YouTube channel. Look up Angela Skurtu, but that's all about this topic. And so 2 or 3 of the ones that I've put out just recently is You're Not Dick Dimensional. It's one of my live streams and a video. And then I also have Got ED, What's Your Plan B? Look these up on my YouTube channel. And it's all about that I don't think just senior men need to know that. I think men in general put so much pressure on their penis to be the sexual performance member, so to speak, that they're missing out that sex is a whole body experience. You can experience pleasure from head to toe, giving and receiving. And when men can treat their penises like that, actually, I have a video on that, which is Stop Disrespecting Your Dick. And it's all about how guys are treating, as soon as they're starting to have problems, they start why aren't you working? What's wrong? I can't get it done. And it's the opposite of sexy, basically, when you treat yourself like that. And actually, it doesn't get your penis to perform any better. It does the opposite. And so when I can help men experience more positive sexuality and treat their whole body as sexual, then what's funny is the erection comes as a byproduct. Your erection is a byproduct of doing hot, sexy things. And that's at any age. And so, I love what he said, and I really appreciate that he's being open and experimenting, because that's really what I want to see couples and individuals do, is open their minds that you're literally all of this, all right, I know you guys can't see it on the podcast, but your little nerve endings, when they start to fire up, those are your little body erections. When you're excited sexually,
So when your
and
hair
you get
stands up.
yeah, think of when your hair stands up, your goosebumps, right? They're literally called pilo erecti, in medical books. So I thought it was so funny that I'm like, oh my God, there's even a medical term for it. That is your body showing that it's aroused and excited. So if you just learn to tantalize your skin and get those little erections going, There's so much hotness there. And orgasms aren't just here either. They're all over. You can get an orgasm in your spine. You can get it in your nipples. You can get them. Some people have learned to get them in certain parts of their feet. I know a woman who can pull up a sense memory of like, she just puts her brain in that sensational space and she can re-orgasm with her brain. Because that actually is where orgasms live, is in your brain and in your spine. Yes, you have closer access to it through your genitals, but like, well, I'll tell you a random story, but like I'd had a really great sexual experience with my husband. And then he started kissing me just right at the nape of my neck. And I was like, wait, I didn't know I could get one there. It was just through exploration, just trying stuff, a little trial and
Really?
error. And you learn how many ways you can orgasm and experience pleasure. And so I love, first of all, you just got me excited. I don't know this guy, but I'd love to meet him.
Well, maybe if we see him, I'm not sure he wouldn't be hanging around because I think,
He's
she's
like,
gonna be
she's
here
here.
too.
I've got to know her. Right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, he's kind of a fun guy, right? Because after the comment, he was like, "Now, what about you and me?" I'm like,
Oh,
never
he's a
gonna."
player.
Oh
I
yeah,
love
he is.
it.
I'm like, never gonna happen, but thank you for asking. He's like, well, I'm gonna always try.
And that's how he gets all the
The
A for effort.
ladies,
That's all the
A for effort.
ladies.
That's right. That's
Tell
right.
you, just keep selling, man. Just keep selling
There
that.
you go.
I love
So,
it. I'm gonna get hot and take this.
I know. I was gonna say, I was thinking, Brett, you may have to open up that window over here. We're all gonna be hot and bothered.
I'm telling you. I hope after listening to this podcast, you all go home and have great sex.
There you go. Even the seniors.
Even the seniors.
Even the
Well,
seniors. That
they're
is
in their
right.
homes.
They are. That's right. That's right. I was going to say, what benefits do people have from having a great sex life?
Well, I've got a few silly catchphrases on that, but like an orgasm a day keeps the Botox away. So you stay younger, your body's blood flow.
Sorry. I was like,
What?
Botox. I know.
I know. Right. So,
Orgasm.
like a lot of people, there's this like feeling of we need to stay young and vibrant. But the reality is like the blood flow that you get from your orgasms and your sexual experiences keeps you looking younger. I want you to just, after today's episode, look at like multiple sex therapists and just look at how young they look. They are incredibly young looking naturally because they're just, that blood flow is healthy. And in order to keep up a healthy sex life, you typically have to, keep your body working well.
Exactly.
And so the questions were, what are the benefits? That's one. It keeps you younger. Joy. Like, I mean, you can see it in me, right? Like there's just a passion and joy when you can be free in your body and learn to enjoy sex. And again, not when I talk about sex being like a bomb for people, it literally is in some people's fight or flight experience. So think of your sympathetic nervous system, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And so when sex can be moved into your parasympathetic nervous system, that sort of casual pause and planned, relaxed place, there's a way you've developed confidence, not only in your sex life, but in life. People who can advocate for themselves in the most vulnerable, taboo ways. Think of that. Like if I can tell you what you can do with my naked body and I feel confident in my skin doing that, that confidence transfers to every walk of life, to standing and telling somebody, this is what I'm okay with, or this is what I'm not okay with, setting boundaries, even giving yourself freedom to explore, because a lot of sex is just fuck around and find out. Or for those of you who don't want to cuss, tinker around and find out. But like when you develop a confidence in treating yourself kindly through that sort of like playful, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try this. What is, I don't know, but let's find out. That sort of energy that you bring, that makes it possible to try other unique experiences, to go on other adventures.
Is that because of the intimacy? That's the most intimate thing, and then everything else is easy from there, you think?
I think so. And because you have to do it naked. I mean, let's be honest.
I was
You
gonna
learn to
say,
advocate yourself naked. It's like, how people say when you're on a speech, like imagine everybody else naked. Well, be in a sexual experience, advocate for yourself, and you're naked. You are in the most vulnerable space.
Right.
So when you develop confidence there, it transfers. It transfers to all walks of life.
Yeah, I was gonna say the vulnerability, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, that's a huge
That is the
part
heart of vulnerability.
that is it. Yeah, you
Yeah.
have to be willing to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Do you think that people can have intimacy without actually having sex? Because I do think that
Absolutely.
as seniors get older, they do, if there is a performance issue, right? How do they continue to keep that intimacy without the sexual act?
So intimate. So one of the things I try to teach people to do is to initiate not sex, but initiate intimacy. Like, and actually my phrase is, I want to be intimate in some way. So like when you're initiating something with your partner, I just want to be close. I want to have some fun with you. I want to be intimate in some way, but how I'm really open to. So what that is it's an initiation with a brainstorm. It's like an erotic brainstorm session where it's like, I want to do something to get close and sexy, but I'm open to what it looks like. What would you be interested in? You're inviting a partner to brainstorm and essentially, I call it collaborative sexual negotiation, but you're negotiating for what you can do. And so this is the thing. So for a lot of female partners, their big fear is that I have to say all yes or all no to this activity, or I'm leading them on. But when you do collaborative sexual negotiation, what you're learning to do is advocate for yourself, and you're learning that there's options, right? So if you initiate, I'd like to try something. What are you interested in? Well, you can come back with 2 or 3 things. Like, well, I could be open for so I had a Southern couple come up with this, and I've used it for years, but naked cuddles is one of the things you can do. I say it with a Southern accent every time because I remember them every time. All naked cuddles is you get naked, you cuddle, you rub bodies, and that's it. But that can be the sexually intimate experience, right? So that's one. You can say, I'm open to kissing a little bit, and just that be the sexual experience. Or it could be, so can I get graphic? Or
Sure. No, we are marking this. Yes, I'm looking at Brett.
I'm just checking because, I can
No.
PG it up.
No.
I'm in business spaces all the time.
No. Say
So
what
you
need to
can say somebody's erection isn't working. Well, they have lots of bones in their body. All you need is a bone. You don't need his bone. It can be if he's on his stomach and you grind on his back and find a good bone, you can grind yourself into an orgasm using the back, using a shoulder, using a hand or fist. But so there's multiple ways to experience full body orgasmic sexual energy. You just have to be open to ideas. So somebody initiates intimacy, you come up with a couple options, and then it goes back and forth. And the other person might say, well, I don't know if I want to do this. I don't know if I want you on my fist, but I could be open to a little hand situation. And that's what I'm teaching people to do is just have really open-ended negotiations that are collaborative and that end in win-wins for everyone.
Which is better than breaking up a relationship, right? Because
or getting into that all yes, all no pattern, which then if it has to be this and I can't commit to this, then people avoid it or they stop. And then the desire just tanks. So that's like the path to a sexless marriage is we only have all yes or all no options. And then we just keep doing that. And then we keep not wanting it more and more until, well people divorce. I mean, that's the other part of my job is working with marriage, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Just to bring everything down.
Sorry.
Sorry, everyone. But that is what
it
happens.
is what happens if you don't communicate or don't work through some things, right?
And if you don't have options on the table to enjoy sex in a variety of ways or intimacy to the answer, there are multiple ways to be intimate that are actually way hotter than sex sometimes. So I just want to invite you to see there's a whole world out there.
Yes. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Is it my turn?
You asked
He's like,
that
this
one. No,
one.
you
asked.
skipped
Why
that
can't
one.
you
No,
ask
I'll
that one?
I'll ask, but are we going back up to that one?
Yeah. Well, she talked a little bit at the beginning about what she does, but
To do the
can you
factors
talk
question.
about? Go ahead.
Can you talk with us about factors that may affect a senior's sex life?
Yeah, there are a lot of factors. So one, your body is just different as you age, right? So one fallacy or myth in the sex world is that you have to be young and perfect bodied to be a sexual person. It is not true. Any age, any size, any shape, you can be a sexual person. But things that do impact that. So remember earlier I said it's our relationship with sex that's complicated. If you have a bad relationship with yourself and aging, then you're going to struggle in your sex life as you age. Because if you think to yourself, oh, I'm old. Old people can't have sex. That mental belief set will stop you from trying. Or the mental myth that I talked, the erection myth, essentially, that your erection has to be there for it to be a sexual experience. Well, if then you're starting to have performance issues, which by the way, most people as they age start to have erection issues. It's an aging thing. Some of it is also linked to self-care, right? So people who exercise and eat lots of fruits and vegetables, I want to put in my plugs for please eat 5 a day. You really should. And people who aren't eating enough fruits and vegetables, people who are drinking or smoking too much or doing too many drugs, those are all the things that will medically impact an erection.
And some medications, right?
And some medications,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yes.
Certain antidepressants, it really, I always have my Google ready because I don't know all of the medications that impact it. But when somebody says they're on a medication, my first thing is, does this erect orgasm or does this impact orgasms? does this impact erections, or, and like it's surprising how many meds do.
Right.
So baseline, if you are taking care of your body and you're doing it well, you are sexually going to perform longer and better. But then still, I mean, we're all aging and we're all human, and I don't know many people who have like the perfect workout and are always going to be healthy all the time, right? So even when you don't have that, this open-minded, like I can be creative, sexually, I can treat myself well being sexual. Those are all the things that are going to help people when they're aging. And then a willingness to try different things. So like people tend to experiment more with sex toys, for example, or yeah, I mean, depending on how erotic people want to get, like just a willingness to be flexible with their bodies, but be kind to their bodies too. I've had people with chronic pain, for example, who just like strategically setting pillows up to limit the pain spaces can be a thing that changes for aging sex. And so it's just you got to be willing. That's why we got to be creative. Like that's part of keeping sex life strong as people age, is the willingness to think outside of the American sex box.
Is there any icebreaker for being open-minded? Because that's a big part of this, like
Of
you said.
course.
Is there anything to get people over the hump to do it? I mean,
So to
it's
speak.
so to speak. I just
Get in
wonder
your
because
car and say sex, 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 sex
Yeah.
10 times per day. I mean, really, just getting comfortable with saying
Yes.
it and talking
Yes.
about it.
I will say that is one part of my work with clients is I do a type of sexual immersion. And what that looks like is initially I will inundate my clients with reading, podcasts, videos, even TV shows on Netflix. There's some super cool educating TV shows now on Netflix, like Principles of Pleasure and Sex, Love, and Goop. Gwyneth Paltrow has like a Goop thing. Even, the Goop Lab episode 3 teaches women how to masturbate with a vibrator. It literally shows point by point, here's the strategy. So like what I will do is I start getting people to immerse themselves in sexuality, but talk to each other while they watch or listen, because that's the thing. So you can get a little bit better in your mind, but if you don't create the communication of like, okay, this is normal. Like we can talk about sex at breakfast. Like I really want it to be that casual. And yes, there's like, I get if your kids are around, maybe you shift the language, maybe you like, it's a weird story from my childhood, but back when I was playing Barbies, we used to, when the Barbies were having sex, call it reading books. And so I still use that as like a playful story around, we're reading books. So let's pull out the old Tolstoy for later tonight. That's what you can say in front of your kids. So you can have like a pseudo language,
Right.
but people need to be as comfortable and confident talking about sex at breakfast as they are talking about the weather.
that'd be a good icebreaker.
I keep breaking you guys. I
This
can
is
tell there's
so
this silence
funny.
where you're like,
I was going to say,
oh,
Brady, how do you feel about
I'm
that?
still sitting up.
he's here. You're making it. I'm so
still here.
proud
I
of
know.
you.
I am so proud.
Well,
Great job,
I want
Brady.
you to, that's the other thing I want is I want people to be proud of themselves. I want you to have a hot sexual experience and be like, damn, I am just proud of myself for what I just accomplished.
I was going to say, for the most part, I'm really comfortable talking about sex. It doesn't really bother me, but
Mhm.
I will have to say that, I grew up in a home where my parents talked about a lot of stuff. Now, I will say I'm not sure that I don't know. There were things like, hey, if the bedroom door is closed, don't come knocking.
But that's
Okay.
them being clear with you
Right.
that we have our own relationship outside of
Correct.
you.
Exactly. So if you come in the afternoon, the bedroom door
Oh,
is
they were doing
closed.
afternoon delights. I'm so proud of them.
Yes, yes, yes.
That's one of those
my
sex
dad
box chicks. Like people, if they only have sex at night, like you got to break that mold. Like afternoon is when we all have energy.
Yeah.
Have sex in the afternoon.
Yes. Yes. So my dad was there. Anyway. But
Anyway, I'm
then,
proud of him.
but then I do remember getting older and my mom, like, this is going on with your dad. And you're like, oh, I don't want to hear that. And she's like,
Yeah.
oh, you're going to hear it because one day it's going to happen. Oh, I pray my brother and sister don't hear that. My parents have passed away, but they were very, really, for the most part, we were a very open family. So
yeah, but that's probably why you feel comfortable talking about sex, because it was a part of your everyday
it
life.
was not like a big deal. And then my dad got frontal temporal dementia and he lost his filter. So then what we realized was everything every guy wanted to say, my dad was saying. So when a woman walked by, like, look at the ass on her.
Oh
We're like,
my gosh.
oh my gosh, dad. But we all giggled, right?
He had
And
dementia,
because, right, he did. I mean, the filter was gone, but then, and they told us, like, so now we were like, this is what he's been thinking the entire time. But of course, we just, we dealt with it and it was quite hilarious. It didn't really embarrass us. We're like, yeah, he's got a dementia.
I love it.
But, it.
It's so fun. So I always say I'm like the tactless therapist or I'm the filterless therapist. I've had to learn tact over time. So now I've learned to like be a little more thoughtful in spaces. But like I was raised by a deaf mom and a dad who is a Southern Baptist minister. By the way, completely opposites. My mom is the most sexual person you'll ever meet. Like she showed up at Halloween 2 years ago with the whip and we were like it's dressed like a dominatrix. And I was like, Mom, where did you get that? And she's like, oh, this old thing, I've had it for years. I was like, I want to inherit that when you die, mother. But like she was married to my dad who was the most prude. Like, I mean, you talk to him, he's got a girl, a friend who is a girl, and all they do is hold hands. But oh my God, it was so sweet because he reached out to me. Like he's like dating again after all, like they're divorced now. Cause of course they're polar opposites. Like I don't even know how they ended up together. But the point is like now, even now, he's in his like 70s and he's dating and he's like, I don't know what to do. Should I be doing that? And you can tell there's like he wants to move that envelope forward or the needle, but he doesn't know how. And so it was really sweet because we had like a difficulty connecting, with him being,
Sure.
I mean, everybody knows there's different value systems, right? But like it's been really sweet to see him kind of find a way to open up to me in dating again.
That was one of my follow-up questions too. I was going to ask if seniors need to do anything different when they're courting or dating, if there's a difference there.
There is. I think, you don't always have to put a label on it. It's so funny. Like there's this whole like, I don't know if you guys ever remembered the DTR rate with like define the relationship, but I don't think you have to define the relationship as you're aging. You can just there are some people who just kind of have a romantic platonic relationship. And I think that's what's going on with my dad and his girlfriend.
Sure.
Or she's a friend that is a girl and they spend time with each other. But like, so you don't have to label it. And, I mean, the reality is they don't even have to be monogamous anymore. Like
Right.
you've got freedom. Many people who have aged, they've spent a lot of time in monogamous relationships and they're kind of in a free flowing space where we were talking about pineapples earlier, like they kind of want to play the field. And so it really is okay to play the field and see what's out there. And I just think that also, if you've held any taboos or shames around sex and you still haven't gotten rid of them, I mean, I think by the time you're in your senior ages, why not like leave some of that baggage behind and just own yourself as a sexual person? Now, I say that there are some people who just aren't going to be able, like, they will die terrified of sex. And I accept that. I mean, I can't, there will be some people I help and some people I can't. But if you really want to like let go of some of that baggage, I mean, you've lived with it your whole life. Do you really want like that to hold you back when right now is like, I think that's the prime. As in senior, you've got time, you've got hopefully the money you've saved up to this point. And even if you don't, you've got a lot of freedom. You don't work anymore. The kids are grown. Go have a great time. And I think there's just like these beliefs or values people have that really sometimes hold them back as sexual people. And that doesn't mean like not every senior is going to end up being a swinger. So I'm not expecting that from every single person, nor encouraging. And I want you to be yourself. But I do think there are some old style beliefs that sometimes get in the way of people just having a more high quality sex life and even high quality relationship in their senior life.
I do believe too, we've had encountered, and this sometimes is a little challenging for staff. So we have encountered several situations. So there is, I'm going to say, a lot of love that is found throughout the building. So a lot of companionship, but sometimes the children
Oh, yeah.
really struggle with that. I mean, I cannot tell you, I've been here almost 6 years, and I cannot tell you, a handful of times where children come to talk to me and they're like, we'd like you to keep mom separate from this guy. And, it always breaks my heart a little bit because I'm like, man, they found someone that they connect with. Right. And, I've tried to say, well, I think they found some companionship there.
Yeah.
But the children are almost afraid of it sometimes that they're gonna, any advice for us when we're meeting with these families about these things?
So I break all sexual interactions down to three very neutral things: attention, connection, and sensations. You may leave out the sensation piece for families, but just attention and connection, right? So part of my job helping people get sex out of their fight or flight spaces, how do we create a more casual, comfortable connection to sex? And so attention, connection, sensation is really a way to neutralize what is sex, what is flirting, what is interacting. And so attention. All you're doing is giving and receiving some attention. That's it. Like right now, you guys are giving me your attention. I'm giving you attention, but it's just like I'm paying attention to you. I'm noticing you. I'm giving you eye contact, right? We were talking earlier before the podcast started, we were talking about the value of like eye contact and sexual interactions. And so I just break that down as like you're just giving attention, eye attention, but it's attention. And it's a way to help people re-engage with the way they're being sexual. That's like, oh, okay, it's attention. I can do that. Like I can give you some attention.
Right.
The second one, connection. Every sexual experience is about creating connection with people, right? You're just creating a connection. So like if you can break it down to those kids, it's like, yeah, they've just created a connection. And actually, we all need a sense of community and connection in this life. And when you find somebody who has like you feel like they're two peas in the pod or have similar experience with connection, that's a valuable thing to have here, especially as people age. Love and sex are a human right, and they're really important for people to have that connection in whatever way that is. And so I would break it down as it's a way to connect and for them to feel like a higher quality of life. And then this may or may not be said to the kids, but this is another way I neutralize sex is all of sex is just sensations. You're just experiencing, giving and receiving sensations, exploring sensations in the body, actually using attention again, like oral sex. People are always terrified of oral sex. All you're doing is giving a body part attention when you give oral sex. And if you think of it on a positive way, you're giving it loving attention. You're showing it care. You're letting that body part know how much it means to you. Like if you hear this, it's gentle, it's kinder, it's loving. Like it doesn't have to be so crass and dirty, although it can be. I'm not like, I don't want to shame crass and dirty too. But for my clients and people who are just terrified of sex, first we have to kind of neutralize it and calm them down from the rafters to see, no, this is like sensations in the body are really what we all live for, right? Like that feeling of like, so it's so interesting in marketing, what you're selling is sizzle, right? So we're selling sensations, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like think of when you're in the Mexican restaurant and like the fajitas come out and you hear that
sizzle.
But think of the feeling you have when you hear that sizzle. That's all that people are wanting. It's just
you wish you'd ordered it.
You're like,
That's me
ooh,
anyway.
like that's what people want, and that's all sex is you're creating sizzle. You're creating you're just creating different sensations in the body, and it does require vulnerability to do that. But really, that's all you're doing is just playing with sensations. And I've been using that strategically to help people kind of neutralize sex first. And then once people have a more neutral relationship with sex, that's when you can get the real sizzle.
There you go. There you go. Sizzle.
You want it, don't you? You're like, oh, I want that sizzle.
I am all about the sizzle.
I am about that sizzle.
I typically order the fajitas.
I'm telling you, because you like that sound.
You want them? Is that what's going on?
I used to always order fajitas.
But what's funny is I've eaten the fajitas. They're kind of messy. I don't know that they're like that magical different from the other. It's just that sound that you're like, oh,
yeah, gets you excited.
That's it.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. That's great advice because I mean it does happen. And I always think because I've definitely tried to say, it's good that they have someone. But I mean I can think of so many relationships in this building that the senior is in a better place because they have a connection with someone.
Mm-hmm.
You see them out in the lobby sitting together, they do things together, and that companionship is it's a gift.
I might invite them to to just casually, quietly observe. Like, here's what I'm seeing. What you just said is like, they're brighter, they're more excited. I invite you to just take a moment to observe your parent and like their face. Look at their facial expressions when they're around this person. Like in the end, I get where you're coming from, but like, what face do you want do you want this face? Or do you want, I guess I have nothing to live for? Is that really what you want for the end of days for your parent to like, I want this.
Yeah. So absolutely. That is absolutely like
one. I want this face.
Right. To want to live because sometimes there's not much.
Because love gives us purpose, a sense of like, I'm valuable in this world.
Yes.
And that's what that connection is.
Right. I belong to somebody.
Sex.
There
I'm just sitting and belonging.
Right. There you go. What do you think?
Nobody
Brittany?
wants to be alone.
Nobody.
I mean, or feel alone or.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And really, I mean,
Because depression is a disease of loneliness. That's really what it is.
well, and when they come here, a lot of times they have lost a spouse. I mean, we have a few couples in the building, but there's 115 of them, and 100 of them are primarily alone. So
And these
they
kids
do.
don't have to imagine, like, it may be like my dad, it might just be like a platonic sort of connection. Not everybody is even wanting sex at that age. Some people
Right.
are, and you're welcome to want it. But
Right.
those of you who aren't, some of it is just like, I just want to feel companionship.
That's it. That's it.
And all of it's okay.
And that is one reason why I asked about the intimacy, because without sex, because I do feel like some of them, you can just see there's this little spark amongst them. And you're wondering, I do occasionally, I wonder if they're getting it on or.
Like, I wonder.
Now I can always ask the housekeeping department because they will know.
I want to tell you just one little piece of intimacy that I learned recently that was so cute. So I was working with this nurse, and she was talking about holding her partner's hand. And as a nurse, she likes blood vessels because, of course, she deals
There
with
you
blood.
go. Okay.
But she was describing to me how, like, one of the things she does to intimately connect with her partner is just tracing his blood vessels and like feeling them underneath her fingertips. And there's a little eroticism she has to that. And that's how personal sex and intimacy is for people. Like, I've never heard that before this last week. And I was just like, oh, how special, how precious. Like, that is their intimacy.
We all have things that we
Yeah.
enjoy like that, don't we?
And that's really what I want to help people do is own your version of sexuality. You don't need to be a porn star. You don't need to be a swinger. You can be. I will not put you down for that. I'm just saying sex is a very personal interaction and relationship, and you have a right to be whatever version of sexual you are.
Perfect. Brady, what do you think?
Pretty enlightening.
It is enlightening. So
He's so red, by the way. I can see it.
I know.
I'm proud of you.
I'm waving to
We
the
have
audience.
not.
Thank you.
I'm gonna text any questions from the watch along group. We do have a staff watch along group, and let's see if they have any burning questions.
This is the first watch along group.
I love that there's a watch along group. That just got me so excited.
Yeah, there is a watch along group. However, I think really they were interested in seeing if Brady made it through. Brady,
but
you've
done great.
I'm still here.
He didn't leave.
I know.
I didn't terrify him. I think hopefully sex is a little out of the bomb space for you and into like, okay, we could talk about it. Maybe not at the breakfast table, but I can do it here.
So while we're waiting to see if they have any questions, what about tips to just maintain a healthy sex life? What are some tips?
I have many of those. One thing I want people to do is just keep an environment of warmth in your relationship. So think outside of the sex box for a moment. I talk about the sex box. So I do want to like explain the American sex box and how it's ruining your life. So the American sex box is we kiss a little, we touch a little, maybe we go down on each other, maybe we don't, and then there's penetration until one person orgasms. That's what people are repeating all the time. Rinse and repeat again and again and again. And it's very limiting and it's very boring. So what I really want people to do is break that sex box. And that's what this creative sexuality is all about. It's like changing up the way intimacy looks, changing up the levels so that there's multiple ways to engage in sex. Like that nurse who likes to just touch her partner's vessels. That can be an intimate act. And so creating an environment of warmth essentially looks like find different ways. So actually I have a game that I'll have people do where they create little jars or boxes, like whatever your container that you like, and you do a G jar, a PG jar, a PG-13 jar, an R. I recently was reminded of the NC-17 because I would just go to X, but they're like, well, there's NC-17, Angela. And it's like, do they still do that? But they might. So there's an NC-17 jar, an X, and you can do triple X, whatever. But what I'm trying to do with it, I have the couple create little like papers of this is what we think is in these jars. And here's the deal. You have to agree. Because what's weird is every time I do this game with people, one person thinks this is a G and the other person thinks it's a PG-13. And it's a great game. So it's fun. It's playful. It's teaching people like, oh, here's where your levels are. But then when you initiate, you have different levels of things you can initiate. And you start to learn more of like, oh, this is more of a G thing for my partner. Whereas like, so for example, oral sex is one that I always bring up because people at some point, somebody's had an issue with it, right? But so for some people, oral sex might be PG and other people, it might be XXX.
Right.
And so even just discussing like, okay, well, so where would we put this? So then when we're initiating something or some kind of affection or intimacy, if you're keeping a warm environment, what you're doing is you're keeping up on a regular basis your G jar. I encourage people to be flirting, talking, interacting. And so the affection can be verbal or nonverbal. But even talking about verbally, what's a G thing to say? Like a compliment could be at a G. Oh, that's a nice shirt. I like that. Whereas I hope you don't mind if I'll use you as my model. I always pick a female so it stays safe, whatever. But so if I'm doing a little more PG-13 or R, maybe it's like, your boobs look great in that shirt. Yeah. Right? And so that's going up.
I think we talked about this in sexual harassment training. Yeah.
I'm sorry, you have been sexually harassed, but it was to strategize.
I'm totally fine with it.
She was my sexual harassment. Women do get away with a lot more than men, I will say. But so with that being said, like having these kind of like, okay, this is what we agree, then creating that environment of warmth of these are the G things we're open to happening on a pretty regular basis, then keep the environment warm. Like don't go cold, stay warm. So it might be we hold hands. Maybe holding hands is in the G jar. Maybe we're cuddling and watching TV as PG, but like initiate those things. Have multiple things, sexual acts and intimate acts that you can initiate and then really keep your environment warm all the time. Like me and my partner, we flirt all day, every day. And like, of course, we have different, well, that doesn't mean we're constantly fucking in the bathroom, like those are different things. Sometimes, I don't like bathrooms. To be fair, I really don't like fucking in a bathroom. I prefer my comfy bed. Right. But if we're, they're still like shaking stuff up. People like to change locations. Sure. This is the other thing. I don't think people realize how little change needs to happen for sex to feel just a little exciting. Just simply starting your sex on the couch and doing the same sex can be like a little like, it's a little tweak. Just a little tweak. You don't have to have a sex swing. You can, but you don't have to make it exciting.
That was
a couch that takes you back to teenage years.
That's what. Yeah. Do you know what a sex swing is?
I can pretty much imagine.
Yeah, just imagine what you think a sex swing would be, and that's what it is.
You can Google it later.
You know what it is.
She's pointing to Brett just in case.
The quiet ones. The quiet ones are always.
The quiet ones. He's dying over there. He has so much to say. Sorry, Brady.
I was just going to say, do you ever have people like you said they have to agree? Do you ever have people that just have a hard stance and just don't want to agree on what rating it is?
Initially, yes, which is why I walk people through it. One thing I found though is like they don't know how to ask the right questions. And so I'll give you an example of how I walked a couple through it just this last week. So we were talking about, I think it was like different hand stuff for genitals, like hand job stuff. And so I started asking questions for how long. So like if you're giving a hand job, if it's just a minute, does that change the rating? Like if you're just a minute of playing with someone's, vulva or penis. And they're like, oh, well, a minute, maybe that would make it more PG-13. And then I said, what if it's outside versus inside? Because that's more of a female, right? So like if it's just outside touch versus inside touch, is it like, what if it's not in the inner labia or the pink or brown part, but if it's just kind of really on the outside, that area? And so like I break down more details for what a sex act can look like. And when couples have some breakdowns, you'll find there's actually a lot more wiggle room. They just have never thought about it. Going back to the thing I was talking about earlier, we're not in each other's bedrooms. We don't know what other people are doing. You see porn, but porn is not a good example for what sex actually looks like for real people. And so there are a lot of unique strategies or just ways to adjust it that when I break it down, actually people can find a lot of things they're interested in. Actually, we were talking about kissing too, like just kissing. So a peck versus a tongue kiss or the Disney kiss. Have you guys ever seen the Disney kiss? Like think of any Disney movie where they kind of, what's the Disney kiss? They just, a little open mouth, but there's not actually a lot of tongue. They're just open mouth, right?
Yeah.
And so like, there's a lot of ways people have, or like if you talk about a kiss, okay, so there's kiss on the mouth, but then there's kiss on the ear, kiss on the neck. What about kiss on the wrist? And so like, there's a lot more willingness than people are aware of because they just don't know how to ask the questions to get into those details. And so I start it in the session talking to them about the different things, but then I have them for a homework assignment go into more depth. And then I still help them beyond that because again, everybody has the same hangups. They're like, we see it. When you say sex swing, all of you came up with some version of what you think that looks like. And then you made a split-second decision of yes, no, hell no, right? Like And
Brady,
often,
What is that?
You would have been a hell no.
Well, but when you break it down and people see there's different ways to do this, like I can turn a lot of hell no's into, well, maybe. And that's actually the space where sex is great, is the maybe
Right,
space.
the maybe.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
actually writing about that in my book right now. It's like the maybe space.
I was
learning
just
to
going to
play.
ask you if you had written a book.
I've written 2 books and I've got a 3rd book coming out this year. So the 2 books are Premarital Counseling, a guide for clinicians, and Helping Couples Overcome Infidelity, a therapist manual. The book that I'm writing this year is a sex book. And I am toying with that title of From Fuck No to Fuck Yes Sex. It's just everybody's like, oh, fuck sex. So that, I could never, but what's funny is every time I say it, people are like, so I'm probably going to lean into that title.
There you go.
So anyhow, I've got a sex book coming out. And then of course, like I said earlier, but I have a YouTube channel with lots of free videos and information. But so yes is the answer.
I have
just keep talking and forget what I was talking about.
Oh, you're good.
One question from the group.
Okay.
How would a couple overcome medical asexuality?
Medical asexuality.
Mhm.
So you may or may not like this answer.
Okay.
I think asexuals do better in open and ethical non-monogamous relationships where they can get some of their platonic intimacy and connection, but then they allow their partners to get sexual experiences elsewhere. Not everybody's open to doing that, but sex is a human right. It is. Like the WHO says so, right?
Right.
And so if you really can't do it and you accept that you just can't do it, I really encourage people to be open-minded to opening up their relationships. If they're not, creative sexuality is still the option, right? So there's sex toys. If you can get reason in your mind for being sexual that you can still enjoy, like, okay, so not everybody has sex because they're feeling passion or desire. You can have sex because you're feeling bored. You can have sex because you want to feel close or warm with your partner. You can have, and I want to say intimacy too, because it doesn't always have to be,
Right.
like every time I say sex, you each have a vision of, usually it's American sex, by the way, which is why I'm trying to break that box. But you can have intimacy if you just want to be playful or silly, right? And so if you can open people's minds to the different emotional sizzle experiences that like
Right.
create those sexual experiences. For example, if you're in the play space, I'm like, I just want to be playful. You could just wrestle. Wrestling with your whole body just in an erotic way is a fun way to be sexual. Have you ever been pinned? It's pretty hot. It's like, well,
I have been pinned.
well, good. I'm so grateful for you.
Oh, I can't believe I just said
I'm
that.
so proud that you did.
Might have to edit that.
There are
No, Brett
1,000
is not
listeners who
editing.
love being pinned. Or if you're on the opposite side, you like to pin and like, overpower
Yes.
somebody.
Yep.
Again, so like if you medically, like if you really just can't be sexual and you have no desire, but if you can find new routes into intimacy, like playfulness, warmth, I just like you. Like, have you ever just touched somebody because they were pretty?
Yeah.
Or you just like the other route in is the feeling of, endearment. If you can,
Right.
by the way, this is a tip for you guys listening. If you can get a woman to do that, that is an open door. Like that awe feeling when you do something and she's like, oh, later she thinks, I'm going to fuck him. I'm going to do something really nice. And I think I should give him a blowjob. I'm telling you,
I'm going to write that down.
endearment. Endearment is the gateway to intimacy with women. If you do not know that, please learn it. Please.
You're right though.
I know.
It
I know.
does. It does.
I've been doing this
totally
for
make-
almost 20 years.
Yeah.
I know.
Okay.
There's a lot more to the awe than I thought.
There is.
It's like, oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Like when a woman
Yes.
picks up a baby, or no,
You
woman.
save
When
a
a
baby
man,
bird or something.
yeah, when a man picks up a baby and is really like, oh, I love you, and she's like, oh, like literally her panties are dropping.
Remember it, Brady.
I got you.
Never
Write it
forget
down.
Gotcha.
Never
It's
forget.
panty dropping.
Panty dropping. Endearment is the panty dropping emotion.
Yes, it's because we're connected to that. That's an
Yeah.
emotion. Because for
Mhm.
women, it is more emotional than
It is. It can be.
Yes, and for men, it's more
I would
sometimes more
say
of an
it
act.
can be, and it depends. I would
Okay.
say women have only been given access to it that way, and women who can break that old shame can also access it through erotic, aggressive sex too.
Okay.
But we are more emotional because if you look at society, we have given men the freedom to be angry, horny, and winning. Those are the emotions you've been allotted in society, and we've been given the rest, and we've denied access to those three. And so that is why men can be more sexual and women can be more emotional. But it's not true. You're all humans with all of the emotions. And when you learn to develop access to all of your emotions, then you can connect emotionally as a guy to sex, and you can connect sexually and animalistically to sex. But you do have to let go of those, like, I'm not allowed to be angry. I'm not allowed to be horny or like lustful. Like basically how you were shamed. Think of all the female shaming we were raised with growing up.
Right.
Like, oh, she's a slut. Just think of every time you heard that. That's what like denied us access to it.
Yep.
So it's not true that we're only emotional or you're only sexual. That is how you've been raised and wired. And that's that relationship to sex. That's why we have to change the relationship.
Mhm.
It's not sex. Sex isn't complicated. It's your relationship with sex that's complicated.
Changes a lot. Interesting.
Sure.
What
as
about low
fuck does.
desire? Do you see a lot of people with low desire?
Yeah.
Okay.
course.
Of
Of
course.
course. It's
So
like,
who seeks your help out? The ones with low desire seek your help out?
so
seek
I
your
mean,
help?
the answer to who seeks my help out of these are the most common people that come see me. Couples right after second baby is the most one of the common couples, because what happens is before baby sex was good, and then after first baby it starts to slow down, but then they do that thing where they're trying again. So they're like, oh, it's fine, we're trying. But by second baby, it just tanks. Boom. So I'll see them about a year or two later after second baby. That's the first client couple. The second client couple I get is people where their kids are launching. So think of like life cycles, right? So like if your whole life, so if you made it past second baby, usually couples who just focus on the kids and work and like just kind of put it on the back burner and make it will then come to me after that when the kids are starting to launch in high school and they're like, oh God, we're going to have to spend time with each other. And I can see that there's some you're starting to have more free time and your kids need you less. So that's the second couple that sees me. And then the third is seniors, of course, because retired, we have more free time. One of them was like, this was supposed to be a new honeymoon phase. And the other one's like, I could live the rest of my life without sex. So those are my three
Yes.
most common times that people
Yes.
come in to see me. And there's a variety, but those would be
Yeah.
the top
That was
three.
my mom. I could live without it for the rest of my life. My dad's like, hell no.
He was like, this is what I wait. I
Are you
literally
like,
put this
I
down
know.
for right
That's
now.
exactly right. He's like, I got the blue pill. Come on.
Exactly. And that's the challenge right there, right? So if one of you's in one space and one of you's the other. And so it's like, how do we help you guys come together?
I think they came up with a compromise that was good for still both of them. So,
I mean, if they don't see me, usually it's an arrangement. And
Yeah,
that is that
and
you
that's-
agree to this amount of sex
yes.
and then you don't talk about it.
And that, I think that probably is what.
That's what
happened.
most of
They
you are
came-
doing. I know. I'm in your bedrooms.
Yeah, they do. They come up with an arrangement.
Not physically,
and,
by the way.
but-
I just talk to people. I literally, there's no nudity. I just talk to people.
Oh, yeah. The arrangement. I think
It's the
that's-
arrangement.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
don't know if I've said that enough. I've got to do a whole video about that, but it's the arrangement. And that's
Yep.
what people do when they think they're at least putting effort into their sex life, but they're not willing to really dig deep.
Yeah, but I'm not sure it's really effort. It's just kind of like,
It's just, this is what I need to do to stave off the beast.
yes. Yeah.
The sex beast. Rawr.
Well, tell us, how can people connect with you, your organization? How can they come see you if they would like to set up a session?
You can submit a contact form at my website, therapistintstlouis.com. That will get you connected to my newsletter, and I send out monthly newsletters with all my products. Also, for free, you can check out my YouTube channel. Look up Angela Skurtu on YouTube, and I have lots of free trainings, free videos on relationship, sex, even like ADHD, because I don't know if you noticed, but I have ADHD with hyperactivity.
Me too.
That's how I can be bounce, 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 bounce,
Am I
bounce,
right?
right?
I do too.
So I even do videos on that
But
stuff
it brings
too.
good energy to
It
your,
does.
to
It's
your
super fun,
presentation.
but it makes me all over the place, right?
Yes. Oh wait, I'm gonna make sure I don't have another question. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
I
But
was
so
gonna
yeah, any
say-
of those two spots are a place to stay connected. Please like and subscribe.
Oh, here we go. You mentioned the American sex box.
Uh-huh.
How does that compare to other cultures and countries?
Well, it depends on how conservative or liberal the country is. And I'm not talking about like Democrats or Republicans when I say that. I just mean like open or closedness to sexuality. So in a more conservative country like Japan, there are more sexless marriages and higher rates of virginity, actually. If you want to learn about this, Sex Around the World on Discovery Channel, super interesting show that talks about like these differences. So in the more conservative cultures, they're dealing with higher levels of sexless marriages where they even accept it, like this is just what it's going to be. And then more liberal countries like Germany or the Netherlands are a little more open-minded. They have a little more wildness. You got your red light district. But it's funny, I've talked to people about the red light district and they say it's wholesome, actually. Like it's just a part of life. It's this, this sort of like, yeah, you can come here, you can try things. There's consent, there's safety for all of the sex workers. Like
There's a safe word, Brady.
well, they have a lot of safety. Like they make sure that there's testing happening. There's actually people there to protect the sex workers and the people. So at any point there's like what do you call it? A button you can push if anybody feels unsafe. So there's added levels of safety because people are so comfortable with the sexual experiences. So I would say like, there's probably more sex in the ones where they're a little more open-minded and as I at least saw on the show, less in the more conservative ones. But just acceptance that that's part of it. So I don't know. That's a really cool question. Now I'm going to want to research like what's the Japanese sex box? What's the Netherlands sex box? What's the Canadian sex box? I bet they're really like polite. They're like, oh, thank you so much for the blowjob. I appreciate it. I don't know. But now that's like an interesting question.
It is kind of an interesting question.
Got to open other bedroom
They
doors.
still have children. They still have children, don't they?
They do, but they might just have like that quick. So everybody has like a honeymoon phase in the beginning of their relationship, or I should say most everyone, because that actually is not always the case. And so in the beginning of a relationship, there's more impulsivity. People try different things. But then after that 6 months to 2 years, then you have to actually put effort into your sex life. And so my imagining is initially they'll have that excited energy. Oh my gosh, it's new, it's fun.
Right.
And then after they get past the honeymoon period, then they move into that sexless marriage period, which we have it too. It just happens after second baby,
Okay. I think there's probably a lot more sexless marriages than people realize, don't you think?
There are a lot.
Mhm.
Yes. I mean, I always have a job. I've never I've always been a pretty busy lady.
That's why the bars are packed.
That's
Oh, I'm sorry. Edit that too. I'm sorry.
No, we're not.
No, don't edit anything. This is an unfiltered podcast.
Well, I was going to say I said my word that there have been quite a few couples that have come in the building, and I thought, I do not know why they stayed together. They hate one another, and it's sad. I mean, it's sad, but these generations they stayed no matter what. They never left, and it I don't know. It breaks my heart a little bit. It's like they've lived this life of
long suffering.
Yep.
Yeah.
Some people are going to ride it out, though. That's just what some people do.
Yeah, they are. You're right. Some people are going to, but I mean, I think as that generation would not, they wouldn't go seek help, and I mean,
great sex isn't for everyone, I guess.
well, I feel like, man, they missed out. They missed out on having this great relationship. They could have had a great relationship with someone and they settled. I don't know. I'm a big, don't settle, girls.
Live your life. Yeah. Live it. Well, I mean, some of it's generational, people were raised a certain way that that was wrong. And it's really hard to let go of that value system if that's what you believe, especially if you're taught you're going to go to hell or something for it. I mean, if you're terrified, then it's really hard to break that. It just sucks because if you think of it, a lot of people got married in very young ages and you'd really so I'm a divorced woman, I'm remarried, and the person I met in my 20s was good for my 20s, but he wasn't good for who I was as a whole person. And I don't think we're really great at picking in our 20s. At least I wasn't, whatever. Some people got magically lucky and did find their great person in their teen years. Yeah. But I didn't know what I wanted. I grew into who I was. And now I'm oh, I am in the heart of my passion. I know exactly who I am. But when you pick somebody, when you're in that space of figuring it out, sometimes you don't think ahead to this is what I want in a father. This is what I want in a partner. This is financially what I need to feel stable in life. Right. And so it just sucks if that's your value system that you have to stay forever. And if you picked wrong first or just not a good connection, then well, I guess you're stuck. So, and if you are in that value system, I don't know if I want to bring God into it or not, but if you believe that, do you think God wants you unhappy? Because maybe that isn't that a little unfair? So if you do believe in a person like that, then I would hope he'd want you to be happy in this world.
Yes.
And if you don't, I respect people either way for their value
Right.
systems.
Yes.
I would just hope that your God would want your life to be a good one.
Yes, I would
And
agree with
families
you.
can also, like you said, it's generational, but one person that might decide to move on, their families can, they can have it out with their families, I guess, or
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm sure it does cause some family turmoil.
it probably does. I mean, it's hard. These value systems are like
especially in small towns.
ingrained. And so it
Yeah.
is difficult. But so, some people will get there and some people won't. And we just got to accept
Right.
people where they're at
Yeah. No, absolutely.
to
Okay,
bring it down again.
I know.
We're like,
Here we
isn't
are.
this
We were
sad?
doing so
I
great.
mean, the
And then
reality
I'm
is
just
these are
making sure we got
serious
no more
topics. It's
questions.
okay.
Nobody has
It's okay.
texted for me to breathe yet.
Okay. No.
Have you been breathing?
I
Absolutely.
have.
I'm proud
No,
of you.
I was
Look
going to
at
say,
you. Great.
I think so too. Brady, you actually did really. Oh, he's a little
Yep.
hot.
Brady, you
I'm
have
a little hot.
grown.
I'm a little
You've
hot.
grown
I
as a
know.
person.
Do you feel like you've learned something today?
Oh, yeah.
I
Yeah,
feel
I've
like,
learned quite a bit.
yeah, me too.
She's very
Absolutely.
confident. I think that is the thing that when you walked in, I could tell your confidence, but that has all to do with your career and
I think it has to do with just being right in the heart of
Yeah.
my passion. I know I'm doing
who
exactly
you
what I
are.
was meant to
Yeah.
do.
I was going to say, confidence does make a big difference. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
even when you're deciding in your life what you want, right? If you're confident about it, we were talking about when we brought it down, somebody leaving or somebody
Yeah.
saying, you know what? I think if they can build some confidence in themselves to realize that it's okay to want something for yourself and it's okay to 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 put yourself first. I mean, sometimes mothers and wives have a hard time with that, putting themselves first.
Well, I want to teach you something about confidence because
Okay.
I don't think people start with it. I think you grow into it,
I would
right?
agree.
So,
Mhm.
here's the pathway to confidence in case you've never learned this. It starts with awkwardness. Everything we've ever tried ever, you start with awkward weirdness. Like, I don't know. Like, when I first started, I didn't know I wanted to be a sex therapist. I was watching this lady. It was Talk Sex with Sue Johansson, who was this nurse, and she would answer questions on TV and rate sex toys with these Burkettes. But I saw that and I was like, that is amazing. I want to do that one day. But I wasn't confident in myself at that time. I just knew that sounded really fun. That's all I knew. And so along the way, it started with awkward trial and error where I was trying this, I was trying that. I was like, do I do this right? Where do I put my hands? I have no idea. And that's how sex awkwardly starts too, by the way.
Yeah.
And so you start by just coming to the table, trial and error, and having a really good relationship with yourself as you trial and error. Like it's the way you treat yourself impacts your ability to learn things. So if you're being kind to yourself as you try things and explore and make a few mistakes, then what happens is you first develop familiarity with the thing. It's like, okay, I've done this before. So like think of a blowjob, right? I've done this before. I can do it again. I'm not confident at doing
Right.
it, but I've at least tried it and explored and it's like, okay, this isn't terrible, right? And
Right.
so then over time, what you do is the more you build familiarity, then you start to, after time practicing and getting comfortable, developing vulnerability and talking with your partner, then you start to develop competence where you're like, you know what? I've given a few blowjobs. I think I'm pretty good at this now. But you're not like, nobody's a master. You just
Right.
start. It's
Okay.
like, but like I've done this enough that I feel like I can get you off,
Right.
There you go.
Exactly.
Then that's where you are at competence. And then confidence comes after competence. And so that's like even that belief like that you need to be confident as a sexual person is a myth. No, you have to just be kind to yourself as you tinker around and explore. And if you are kind to yourself and kind to your partner, then you can tinker around and explore your way to a lot of hot, fun things. But we've got to get over this idea that you just need to be confident because that actually holds a lot of people back and thinking they have to know what they're doing before they do it. No, like any skill, when you ride a bike, you don't start like a master. You're not not Neil Armstrong. Who's
Lance
the
Armstrong.
Lance Armstrong.
I was wrong reference. Thank you. Nobody starts as Lance Armstrong on the bike. So why do we expect people to be Lance Armstrongs in the bedroom? That is an unfair expectation. No, you're going to start as a fester. Like, from the Addams family.
Yeah.
Everybody starts as a fester and then we grow to Gomez.
Okay. And over time.
Over
Yeah,
time, trial and error and being kind to
Competent,
yourself.
and then
Yeah.
comes confidence.
Yeah. So it's awkwardly go for it and hope for the best and do it with people who are good people, right?
Sure.
So like if you have a partner who's creating that safe environment, then it's easier to tinker around and explore. If you have somebody who's abusing you or really critical, that's not a good safe environment for tinkering and exploring. which is why the person you're being vulnerable with is part of that context too.
Very interesting.
I know. I love when you guys stop. It's like,
I know,
I
we're
really
so-
hit something.
No,
I
yeah,
know.
I
I
know.
touched
I'm
something
just,
serious.
I'm
I can
turning
feel
it.
it in the room.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so proud of them. They're learning so much. I hope you guys are too. And you too.
Yes.
So you told us, let's go back. You told us they can submit something online
A
and they
contact
can,
form
contact
at
form.
my website,
Okay.
therapistInSt.Louis.com. If you submit a contact form, then that gets you on my newsletter. And I give out monthly newsletters of all the different products I have. I have my erotic adventure retreats, and that's going to be a fun group event where you learning how to explore and take some chances with your partner. And I have the dinner with a sex therapist. But again, if you just submit that contact form, you get my monthly newsletter. You see what I'm doing. And then the second one is YouTube. Look up Angela Skurtu, Skurtu, and then you'll have free access to my videos. And I hope, of course, you're going to link to it on your podcast, right?
Yes,
I
we
did the
will,
YouTube.
absolutely.
That's how I saw it.
Yeah.
I know. I told him because I think I had listened to some YouTubes and I said, here, go check her out. And yeah, absolutely.
I'm here to change the sexual landscape. I want to help everyone grow.
It's been a great conversation. I think one that people tend to shy away from, like we said. I mean, and we know seniors are having sex, and it's something that I think we probably need to talk a little more about and be more transparent. Angela, we appreciate you coming in today.
I had so much fun.
It's been a great conversation. And so I hope people will tune in and connect with you. And if they want to set up some sessions, I hope people will do that.
Yeah. I'd
Thank
love
you.
to have you.
I was going to say, we hope to have you on again sometime. This has been a great conversation.
Yeah. Well, and even if they just want to come to the event, at my dinner with a sex therapist event, it's one night. You just have a little fun. You can bring your it's Galentine's. So it's this February 15th. So you can do a Galentine's event. It could be a date night. But I even have little one-offs like that where you can come in and just get a little just a little sprinkle of sex for the night.
There you go, Brady. You're going to have to fill out a contract.
Do you want a sprinkle, Brady?
February 15th is my wife's birthday, by the way.
Oh, what a great gift.
You're going to have to fill out one of those contact forms. Then you can bring that monthly newsletter.
When does this episode come out?
Tuesday.
Now he's ready to run. No pressure. No pressure. We want consenting adults.
I know, but I'm thinking you could print that newsletter out at a morning session and just update everybody on some of her events that people could connect with.
Mm-hmm. And if you guys want to host me here for a dinner with a sex therapist for the residents, I could totally do that. I do it at sites for people.
I was going to say, it
could be very fun.
Definitely. Yeah. We'll have to Pilar for our activity department and see. But I think.
Why not? Pilar.
Yeah. We'll get
ready.
Just one fun thing I do is I do an adult sex ed game where I give people gold stars for correct answers, just sticker gold stars. People love winning those gold stars. I'm telling you, we have not had enough positive reinforcement in our lives. So when somebody wins 10 of those gold stars, they wear it like a badge of honor.
I got
a gold star. Takes me back to preschool, I think. Yep. I remember the stars.
Yeah, I do remember stars too.
Yep, I do it. I love it. So I'm the gold star therapist.
All right, we'll definitely connect and have you back out. So
I would love to.
Again, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks. Thank you for listening to the Senior Moment Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, we invite you to like, follow, and share wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. We hope you'll join us next time. Take care, everybody.